Well, welcome back to AK Math, and today we are going to take a look at adding integers. Integers are a special set of numbers that include both negative and positive numbers within that set. As you can see to the right of my adding integers, we have a number line. We can see we have 0 in the middle, and to the right we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. And to the left we have -1, -2, -3, and -4. Absolute values were actually created to designate a distance, or a distance from one number and how far away it is from 0. They use the symbol of two parallel lines to represent the absolute value. Now, let's take an example. Why in the world would I have to use an absolute value symbol? Well, let's say we are playing Minecraft and we are going to dig a pit to catch chickens because we would like to make some cake. But we need chickens to get the eggs to make the cake. So one way to catch a chicken is to dig a pit. But we start digging at ground level 0. And let's say we need to go down 5 feet. So we have a deep enough pit that our chickens won't get out of. Well, if we look at this and we have a 0 to 5, if we were actually going to look at that as an equation, that would be 0 minus 5, which would be equal to a -5. And that doesn't quite work for us. So let's see if we can figure out a better way to do this. We know we went down 5 feet, and we're going to represent the going down with a -5 feet. We also know that we started digging at ground level 0. So we have ground level 0 plus the absolute value of -5. Now we know the distance of our pit. Since we realize that we have the absolute value of -5, we'll make it positive. So this will become 0 plus 5, which is equal to 5. All right, that is what absolute values are all about. They're just a distance. So now let's get back to adding integers. I'm going to take a very simple addition problem. We know that 2 plus 3 is equal to 5. But what about -2 plus -3? Well, that looks a little trickier because we've thrown in some negative signs. We know with 2 plus 3, we are starting at 2 and moving over 3 places to the right on the number line. So it would be logical to assume that if we were at -2, we could do the same thing, and we could move over 3 spaces and get to a -5. And Of course, the answer is -2 plus -3 is -5. But we usually get to our homework and we don't have something this simple. So let's take a look at some things that could possibly be in your homework. If we have, let's say, -8 plus, in parentheses, a -2, this looks different. Well, here's where a nice little rhyme comes into place. And the rhyme is in this wonderful red box that says same sign, meaning the sign is either a negative or a positive, add and keep. Different sign, subtract. Keep the sign of the biggest number. All right, well, let's take a look at this problem because we've got some parentheses in here that always make it look a little strange. And I have a negative sign in front of the 8, and I have a negative sign in front of the 2. Well, I'm going to go back to my poem, and I can see same sign. Well, I know both have negative signs. So I am going to add and keep the sign. So I know my sign will be negative, and now all I have to do is add my numbers. And 8 plus 2 is 10. All right, that's pretty simple. But what if they start to throw you a curveball, which a lot of homework problems like to do? So we are going to take a look at -9 plus a -3. And again, we are going to look at the signs. Well, we have a -9 and we have a -3. We've had this before, so we know the sign of the answer will be negative. And we know that 9 plus 3 is 12. Okay, so we've tackled the same sign. But what happens if we have different signs? So let's take a look at an example with that. All right. So if I have -8 plus 5. Okay, I can write this because I'm not quite sure. I know that my 8 is negative, so I know that that is a negative sign, so I'm going to keep that. -8 plus, but I don't know what the sign is on my 5. Well, if it doesn't have one, it is positive. All right, now we can see that we have a -8 and a +5. Okay, let's go back to our rhyme again, and we see, we have a different sign. It says to subtract. Okay, so I am going to subtract. 8 is the bigger number, so that goes on the top. And I am going to subtract 5. And I will get 3. But there's a second part to this. I must keep the sign of the biggest number. So I have to look back here. Which is bigger, 8 or 5? Well, I know that 8 is bigger than 5, so my answer will take on the negative sign of the 8. So our